I am officially done competing, and this might come as a surprise to many of you if you've known me throughout my course and my fitness journey. I have fully immersed myself in the competition industry. I competed for many years. I'm currently an IFBB Bikini Pro certified nutritionist and mom of two. And back in the day when I was all in this whole thing, I was also a competition prep coach. I was a posing coach, had clients, and this was like my entire world. I have so many positive things to say about it. And so it's actually kind of surprising to me that I've actually made the decision to not compete. At the same time, I can see it as a self-reflection that I have actually taken a ton of what I learned from when I was competing, and I'm now just taking it into this new phase of life where I just personally have such a strong opinion that the pros do not outweigh the cons when it comes to competing. And so I want to share those pros and cons very clearly. I want to be direct and also share my opinions, positive and negative. So maybe you're a competitor, maybe you're thinking about competing, maybe you're an IFBB Bikini Pro like I am, and then maybe you're just trying to figure out what you're doing on this journey. And I honestly feel like this journey could be right for a lot of people. And for me, it was for a season of my life. And currently, I have decided that it is just not for me anymore. And if I were to boil it down to saying it super short and quick, I just don't think it's healthy. And for me, where I have one body and I want to do literally everything that I can to maximize my health, I really do not see how competing can fit within those bounds. And there's a lot of things that I think that are actually kind of twisted, and I'll get into that. But I want to be super open, super transparent, and honest. And so if you find this content valuable, I'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to my channel. You can also find me on TikTok, Instagram, and here on YouTube. So my handle is ShayHubFit. And so I'm really, really excited to share with you my thoughts about this topic today. We're going to start with some of the twisted thoughts as well as the cons, then we'll jump into the pros at the end. If you think about it, if we were to show general population society this picture of me when I was most recently competing in 2018 and say, do I look healthy? My honest opinion is that most people would say, yes, like you look beautiful, you look fit, you look very feminine, like da, 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 all these things, when in reality, I'm actually nowhere near optimal health. I'll go over the list of all of the negative side effects that you actually feel and experience when you are stage lean. But think about it. You get society who, generally speaking, thinks that you're healthy. These can be like friends, family members, people on social media. They're giving these competitors positive feedback saying, you look incredible. Oh my gosh, like you're such an inspiration. Giving these competitors, and this was even me, and like encouraging me to be less healthy and being like, I aspire to be you. It's like people are aspiring to be a less healthy version of themselves, which to me is such a twisted society or like a twisted perspective to think about it. And then once you get on stage, then you get those validations even pushed further when maybe you place high and you're like, oh my gosh, like I just placed really well. I look amazing, which validates those like comments that you've been getting. Or you can place really low and say, oh my gosh, like all those people who said I looked really good, it's like, but I got last place, and like, oh my gosh, my self-worth. And so it's like you start to tie your self-worth to your placing, to the comments that you get from people. And then when you put back on weight, when you get into the off season, which you should, women who compete, you guys should be putting on weight after you compete. This is like so normal. It is so healthy. But you get competitors who are like, oh, this is my off-season body, or oh, I'm prepping, like my show's coming up soon, like I'm not stage lean right now. It's like you get people dismissing what is really normal because they don't look as fit as they used to when they started getting all these comments. And it feels backwards to me, because to me, the epitome of health is feeling, it's like vitality. It's the feeling of vitality and feeling rejuvenated, feeling energy, and being at a healthy body fat percentage to be able to be fertile and to perform, right? And in our daily activities without being like so rigid and so intense. And so really quick, I want to go over some of the negative side effects that a lot of people can experience. I literally will tell you, I experienced every single one of these negative side effects when it comes to being stage lean. And so you have super low energy. Obviously, you're in a calorie deficit. And so your energy is going to be a lot lower, low sex drive. We've got lower sleep quality. You are hungry. You are hangry a lot of the times. Hormonal imbalances. I can't even tell you, as I would approach competing and getting on stage, sometimes I wouldn't have a menstrual cycle. And by the way, I am extremely regular with my cycles, except for when I'm competing. And as I get close to the stage, my cycles just go out of whack and I either don't menstruate at all, or there was even a show where I was having a menstrual cycle literally every other week for like a couple months, which that is not healthy at all. You can have long-term health issues from it. Also, your workouts are a lot more difficult because you're going on lower energy, but you need to like continue to push and grind because you want to maintain and spare your muscle mass, especially if you are a natural athlete like I am. I am a lifelong natural athlete, and it's hard because you lose muscle a lot of the times with every cutting phase. It's like such a fine balance because you're focusing on your protein and you're focusing on, oh, I got to keep lifting, and you're grinding and grinding because you want to save every last bit of muscle. And it takes so long to build that muscle as a natural athlete. And if you do incorporate steroids as an athlete, those have a plethora of other side effects that I personally would never want to take the risk on, but to each their own. So that can bring in a whole other spew of side effects. You get a weakened immune system. You're more irritable, right? And so it's just it's not healthy. Okay. It's really, really not. And so I want to try to bring that to light because honestly, even when I was competing, I would say, I know it's not healthy, but I'm not going to be here for that long because I'm going to get on stage and then I'm going to put weight right back on, right? But then there's that psychological loop of like the placings and the people's comments. And so there can even be politics involved, maybe depending on what team you're on, or sponsorships for the show, or maybe how you present yourself on social media, or maybe you say something not so good about competing online and you get a judge who hears that, and then they might rank you differently based on what they might have seen on somebody else's social media. The industry as a whole is also, generally speaking, hypersexualized. And I have an unapologetic opinion about the topic. I personally am anti-pornography. I think it is doing absolutely nothing to benefit societies, individuals, families. And so I think that as people start to compete more, I see this as a trend where they start to hypersexualize their bodies. Obviously, you're standing in little to no clothing. You are a lot of times in very sexual poses. And also you get a lot of competitors who are taking it to an extreme and even doing extremely sexualized facial expressions. And honestly, this goes even off stage as well, where after you compete or when you're stage lean, you've got your tan and things like that, doing very sexualized photo shoots and video shoots. The posts that they start to post on social media become more body focused, maybe where before you might just see them posing regularly with their family, but now that they've started competing, they'll only post pictures where their waist looks thin, or or where they're like posing in a certain way that like makes their delts pop, or like, like you start to see these types of trends. And it's sad to me, honestly. And I say that just coming from my own opinion. I know that my morals are different than other people's, and honestly, to each their own. Like if that's the type of content you want to consume or the type of content that you choose to post, that is on you. To me, I do not approve of that type of content. You'll never find that type of content on my social media. I also know that I have two kids. I've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and that is not something that I want them to see on my page. And it honestly makes sense to me why people might start to post more sexualized images and videos of themselves, because of that positive feedback loop that we talked about a little bit earlier. But it's such a bummer because there is so much more value in an individual than how you look. And I believe that to my absolute core, which is why it just hurts me to see society going more towards subjectifying women, and women feeling like, oh, like I am embodying myself, like I am confident, like this is me protruding my confidence, and that might be your expression of confidence. But to me, to be confident is to be confident in who you are, like as a person. Like you don't need to crave the attention of somebody else to sexualize or lust after your body in order to feel value. Does that make sense? In my earlier years, I felt like I wanted to be someone who stood out in the crowd. It's like, I want to compete and not sexualize my body. I want to compete and I want to not post about this content. But as I'm getting older, as I've had kids, I'm like, I don't really want to associate myself in that realm anymore. And I feel really good about that. And to others, it might be that that's like where they want to be, and it's fine, to each their own. Now jumping into the pros, for me, this could envelop literally one word, which is discipline. The practice of everyday discipline when you are competing is literally unmatched because you have such an extreme goal of getting to such a low body fat percentage while maintaining such a high level of muscle mass, while training for your posing to present your physique in the best way, to peak in the best way. You're hiring coaches, both posing, for nutrition, for fitness, and you're literally giving it like your entire heart and soul. Like that is like just legit straight up discipline. And it's not like you're doing this for like, oh, I'm going to do it for a couple days or for a couple weeks. It's like you're literally doing this for months to prep for a show. And that's just the dieting phase. But when I was in this, it's like you are in your off season, you're like grinding so hard to put on all of this super hard earned muscle. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to go for this show. And then you diet down, and that takes like 3-4 months. And then you compete. And then for me, it's like I would see my pictures and I would say, I know exactly what I want to change. Let's reverse and let's go into another off season. So it's like it became this lifestyle that was just addictive. And for me, it was in the best way at the time. Obviously, my perspectives have changed a little bit, specifically as regarding preventative health and being in the most optimal health, which I'll get to actually at the very end. Something that literally changed my life because I competed was learning how to track my macros. And this might sound cliche, but putting literally single thing of food on a scale, tracking it, seeing literally on a spreadsheet what it did to your weight, your mood, your energy levels, literally over the course of years, both in my off season, both during a prep, I learned so much about both my body, about my clients' bodies, and learning about just the phases that we go through. Like even when we're on our menstrual cycle, like how I have a weight spike literally every cycle, and it's expected and it's normal. So learning about food was instrumental and will literally change my life forever. Depending on what phase I'm in, for example, maybe I'm prepping and I'm like 125 pounds, or maybe I'm about to give birth and I'm 175 pounds. Literally, regardless of where I'm at, to be able to now observe, now being out of the competition industry, to say every phase has its weight, has its look. And it's like, and this is my body. Like my body is amazing. Like it literally has given me children. Like it's amazing what my body has been able to do, the amount of runs and the amount of weight and the amount of things that I can do and lift and run and pull and like all of these things that I can functionally do because of my body. I just have such a bigger and better appreciation for what my body can do because I have fully pushed it to certain limits. And another thing that I'm thinking about is the community. The amount of women that I met when I was competing is so amazing. I can think of so many lifelong friendships with coaches, with other competitors, with teammates, and friends that I have made that I am so grateful for competing, because I don't think I would have ever have found those women without it. And also I want to give a shout out to Team Fitbliss. They are local in Utah. I cannot say enough positive about that team. These were the ladies who coached me at the very beginning and even worked with me when I earned my pro card. I was a coach with this company, even a posing coach, had clients, and I just seriously learned so much. Seriously, from our body to our soul to our mind to trying to make the prep process as healthy as possible. I do not know that there's another team that does it better than Team Fitbliss. I'm sure there are others out there that do it equally as well, but I am so grateful for all the things that I learned and the amazing ladies that I have met along the way. Also, can we talk about show day really quick? That is like the pinnacle, the funnest day ever. I know for a lot of people that can be super stressful, but for me on show day, I get so excited, like being able to step on stage. I'm like going back to my roots as a cheerleader, as a performer, as a dancer, and being able to get on stage and like present the physique that I worked so hard for is so fun, because it's like there's not much you can do on show day. Like once you're there, it's like you've done all the work. It took you months and even years to get there. So the presenting is so fun to me. I love that part. Since I decided to not compete, it has been transformational to my personal fitness. I am so excited. Like it's like I tapped into this new phase because I've been lifting weights for over a decade. And to be in this constant motion of like, I gotta build muscle, I gotta build muscle, I gotta build muscle, and then to decide not to compete and be like, you know what? It's actually not the end of the world if I don't build muscle. And it's actually okay if I even lose muscle. Like I've lost so much muscle, I've lost so much strength. But to me, it's not where I place my worth anymore. Like right now, like I'm probably sitting around like 17, 18% body fat, and I actually feel incredible. I don't look in the mirror anymore and be like, oh, I don't have my chiseled abs, or like, oh, when I flex, like you don't see like this huge, massive bicep, because that's not where I put my worth anymore. When I train, like I'm doing now, like super fun and functional training things like with body weight, with like pistol squats, with box jumps, with like more like dragon squats, like super fun movements that are actually so freaking challenging. And I know it doesn't require any weight, or going on long runs. Like I haven't ran in years, because when you're competing, cardio is like, oh, like at least it was to me. I did not love doing cardio, but like before I got into competing, like I was into half marathons and I love to bike. And so being able to incorporate new and fun types of cardio and even doing yoga, oh my gosh, like the flexibility and mobility, like where has this been my entire life? Like there are certain movements that took me months to master, and it looks so easy, but it's like to be able to move your body in the most functional way. I believe that like the optimal physique, not physique, the optimal fitness is strong, is mobile, is flexible, is in like able to be in like through endurance, like running, and like to be like this cross functional and cross trained athlete feels so good. I have never felt more healthy in my entire life. We're going to be going for more babies in the future, and so we're excited about that new adventure. And so it's amazing to not have the additional stress of I have to do this, I have to track, I have to get this amount of sleep, I have to get this amount of training, and I have to lift this amount of weight, you know? Where now I feel like I'm living at a better level. Granted, I'm in a different phase. I've got kids, I've got my business, and back then it was just different. And so I'm in a new phase. I feel like I'm living in my vitality era, and I am so grateful. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my video. I had so much fun sharing with you, and I hope that you found it valuable. Be sure to find me at Shayla Fit on the social media platforms. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to my channel. See you next time.